Today, we're not in the 30s anymore. Railway signalling is a vital part of today's railways, as the plethora of delays due to signal faults might hint towards. But often, these sorts of items are frequently glossed over. But what if I told you you could install most of the railway signalling items you need fairly easily, reasonably quickly, and without breaking the bank in the process? Well, click like and subscribe, and I shall show you how to. So let's get started. The first stage is to have your layout. I've made this diorama up and ballasted with the exception of a few places. Around where point machines will be installed and where cabling will pass under the track, I've left some gaps. For where the cabling is going under, you'll need to cut away the plastic that joins the sleepers together under the rail, or cheat and use where the rails join. The first detail we'll be looking at is the point machines, sold as dummy point motors, which doesn't make much sense as the motor is inside the machine, but I digress. Before the installation, I took a sharp knife and made 2 small holes in the end. This is where the cables will eventually come out of. The machine will then go alongside your points at the toe with the thinner end towards the front of the point. The second part pointing out is where your drive will come from, so this wants to line up with the bar that holds the switch rails apart. You'll probably need to trim that bar down just to get a good fit alongside. The machines I got were ready painted, however I think they now come unpainted, so they need painting grey and weathering. However, this machine I'm painting clean to mimic a recently installed machine. These dummy point machines were very cheap. I think it was about £3 for a pack of 6. Next, under track orange piping. This is no longer allowed on the real railway. However, there are still plenty of examples of this found out there that's yet to be removed. This is just some small gauge orange wire cut to length, and this is put where cables are likely to want to go under the track, such as by points or an AWS magnet. All the cabling will head to a cable trough route, like this one. This is a pack made by Wheels, again incorrectly named as cable trunking, but I won't go into that. This will go alongside all of your track. And where you have a relay room, an REB, signal box or a location case, you'll need to use one of these junction pieces. These aren't used for individual pieces of equipment, as the trough route has holes in it where the cables can go into. Speaking of location cases, these can be installed as well. These are Hornby Scale AWS boxes. So wrong. They'll have the equipment for AWS in, but not exclusively. Come on, Hornby, be better. Anyhow, these cases are what most equipment will go back to before heading to a relay room or signal box. You'll usually find one alongside a signal or 2, and at least 2 alongside points, 1 per 2 points, plus an additional 1 for power. In this case, I've got 3 ends here, plus a lot of other equipment, so I went for 4. I painted a yellow band around the end one, as that will signify that it's got high voltage in, as Lineside equipment is fed with 650 volts, and in these yellow cases we'll convert it down to the usable 110 volts, which everything else works off in one way or another. However, that's a little bit overkill on information, a little bit unnecessary, but yes, it has a yellow band on it. Before we head on to the next part, let's see where this episode's steam spend is going. This time, it's going to the 125 group, as it's the closest thing to a modern day preservation that I can think of. Not to mention, I think their plan to preserve a full-length HSD is pretty nifty, and the prototype HSD they've got running again is fabulous. Slightly guilty pleasure there, but anyhow, go check them out. Right, onwards. Next, the most noticeable and important part, the signal. This was made from a kit from Train Tech. This was only £6 as it didn't actually include any LEDs. However, they do supply those, but it will double the price of each signal. However, these are some of the best kits I've seen for the price, and they have plenty of options such as the ability to add theatres, junction indicators, and also create the mind-blowing splitting distance. To go fully in depth into signalling is a video in itself, so I'll try and keep it brief. We usually have signals before points, both facing and trailing moves, and you'll usually have them at stations. But if there's no points or level crossings or anything ahead, then they might not have one at the platforms. and then you'll also have them in sections ahead of each other. No set distance for these sections, but on average they can be anything from half mile to a whole mile in length, which in double gauge terms is between 10 and 20 metres roughly. Next, we had one of the many, and also one of the oldest safety systems that the UK railways still employ, AWS. This is a very simple system, basically just a permanent electromagnet in the middle of the track. When the signal is green, you get the two magnets being magnetic, and when the signal is any other aspect, it's just a single magnet that the train will recognise and give the driver a couple of seconds to respond before applying the emergency brakes. To install this, I just used a Pico AWS magnet with the main body painted yellow and the ramp painted grey. If this was in an area with third rail, this would be painted green instead of yellow. This is then glued into the forefoot about 2.6 metres before the signal. And lastly, the last item I will be covering is TPWS. This is another safety system. This one came about in the late 80s and early 90s due to the Clapham Junction crash. This one has 4 of these grids, 2 stuck together at the signal, and then the other 2 on the lead up to the signal. Depending on the line speed, it can be up to 450 metres away, which in modelling terms is 5.9 metres. These are very simple in installation, if not a little bit fiddly. 3 crossbars were used, and then the 2 grids were glued on top, making sure the little blocks in the middle are at the furthest edges. And there we have it. Plenty of modern Lineside details there. Now just add any other scenic items like ground cover and bushes and whatnot, and you're golden. You can go further to add a few little dioramas like network rail text preparing to replace the point machine with a new clean one, or the old one still awaiting taking away, or perhaps a replaced signal head also waiting to be removed or pinched. Plenty to keep busy with. Thanks for watching. I promise next time we'll make it back to the usual era, perhaps. So see you next time, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons to keep yourselves sweet.